wanted to wait to make this video since we had some real DPS sponges on yesterday's card in UFC Fight Night Kansas City. But here we have it. This is going to be UFC fighters who take a ton of damage. So we're going to talk about all the same fighters that I had planned because the narratives aren't too far off from what I had established here before the event. In a fully grown, healthy male eagle's lifetime, only one rebirth should be possible. So the eagles that we're going to discuss, they may be something even greater, potentially even phoenixes with infinite numbers of life cycle respawns. So make sure to drop a like on the video. 1 like equals 1 respect, and also 1 eagle regains its beak and its feathers for every single person that likes this video. So let's get right into the picks. Matt Schnell is kind of stinky. You aren't really watching a Matt Schnell fight unless he takes a ton of damage that he doesn't need to take, or he just goes to sleep entirely. The other day he fought Jimmy Flick, and Jimmy Flick is nothing notable, even as a grappler, which is his specialty, but he still was able to get ground and pound strikes off on Schnell that he probably wouldn't have been able to land on higher tier fighters. And Jimmy Flick was Matt Schnell's tune-up, so he took entirely too much damage. For this to have been a fight where you're supposed to come back and have a flawless victory, he took entirely too much damage for that. Let's see what happens whenever they try to catapult him through the rankings one more time, because there's no more fighters in flyweight, and Matt Schnell actually has a moderately decent skill set, just no chin. In his heart, he's a tired man who finds the octagon to be the most suitable place to rest. I'm not going to go as far to say that I'll be counting the days, but whenever he gets match made with a power puncher, I am not going to be selecting Matt Schnell to win that fight. Giga Chikadze is the next fighter that we're going to talk about. He randomly woke up one morning and just decided to start getting beaten up. He suffered an injury off screen. I think he tore his groin or something, and then whenever he came back against Calvin Kattar, he lost years of his life in that fight. He looked pretty bad against Arnold Allen too, and he got saved at the bell at the end of that fight because he was dropped and then was getting ground and pounded into the end of the fight. In Giga Chikadze's most recent performance against David Onama, he didn't look very sharp at all and was rocked really early on the feet by David Onama, and it looked like he was about to get finished. This was a very significant rock sequence in the fight. For all the damage that he did take in the stand-up, he didn't have his own moments at all. This was pretty equal standing for him to be on with another fighter in terms of striking, as far as power output and finishing capability went, if he is just a middle-of-the-road striker, which he's turning out to be. If he was anything more notable, he would have knocked out David Onama, but it didn't happen that way. Giga Chikadze graduated with a master's degree from We Eat Those University. The next fighter who gets mentioned is Mingyang Zhang. He genuinely enjoys getting punched in the head. In these fights that he's in, it takes him getting popped with a decently powerful shot in order for him to start fighting seriously. With Anthony Smith, they were standing close range against the cage, and Anthony Smith throws a lead elbow that lands perfectly on Mingyang Zhang. Mingyang Zhang gets annoyed by this and is like, oh yeah, you want to throw elbows? And so he starts throwing elbows back at Anthony Smith, and he's taking damage the whole time, but the damage that he's getting off is just more. This fight style can pose a significant risk against strikers who have that one-shot KO potential. Against a Carlos Ulberg and Alex Pereira, if he ever gets to that point, or even a Jamal Hill, he's not going to be able to just take their hardest shot and shrug it off, and then get serious if he's not switched on by the time that he comes onto the octagon. For this reason, I don't consider him to be a serious contender for the belt, since he cannot move his head and he cannot raise his guard. That was a good win over Anthony Smith, and I might just be hating, but I don't think that this is a for real guy because of the fact that his defense is so bad. Dominick Reyes is the next entry. He took so much damage that I thought we lost him. First it was Jan. That's a picture of his body all ripped up from the lead body kicks that he was eating throughout that fight. Then there was Yuri, who spinning elbowed him off of the cage, and that was a brutal finish. And then they gave him Ryan Spann afterwards, and he got KO'd with a jab in that fight. And all of this happened to him after he beat John Jones. My theory is that in the time that he took off, he grew a new chin and water. He bought a just growing water chin product, and he just had it resting inside of a fish bowl the entire time he was getting knocked out. And whenever it was ready to be taken out, he just fastened it onto his actual chin, and now he's good. He covered it with his beard, and nobody even knows. I'm excited for the Dominick Reyes title run. The reason why I put him in the slide directly after Mingyang Zhang is because this is partially a matchmaking video. I want to see those two fight very badly, and I think that Dominick Reyes wins because, as I established before, Mingyang Zhang does not protect himself. Justin Gaethje is going to be the next fighter that we talk about. He's going to be the second guy on the list, so we're going to talk about who's just really good at taking damage. Mingyang Zhang is the first. The way that Gaethje does it is special. Even in the fights that he wins, he gets hurt or he gets hit with a heavy blow or several of them. Whenever he does get finished, he gets torture tested like a Glock 19. Michael Chandler, Rafael Fiziev, Charles Oliveira, even Tony Ferguson all hit him with their hardest shots. And largely, he ate them whenever they would have knocked out most people clean. Justin Gaethje's chin needs to be donated to science once he passes. His brainstem infinitely squirts blood into his cranium like the fountain in the map Varrooked from Zombies. Dan Hooker is on a mission to collect every form of CTE. He's constantly getting hurt in his fights and he's wearing tons of cosmetic damage. Whenever he loses, he's executed by all of his opponents too. Think back to the Edson Barbosa fight and the amount of damage he wore in that. How fast he got knocked out by Michael Chandler. The amount of punishment he took in the Poirier and Allen fights. They both beat the brakes off of him. This guy is a very high-level fighter and a skilled kickboxer, but he can turn into a heavy bag very fast if the fighter that he's match-made with just has his number. These are the injuries he suffered against Jalen Turner, a broken orbital and also a broken wrist. And for this reason, he's been in a cast in every single photo that he's been posting in social media. He required hand surgery for one of his injuries, so he's had medical gauze wrapped around his hand for like the last 8 months. It's going to be surreal to see him fight again because I only see him in a state of being hurt at this point. The next fighter is Whittaker. He's only 34, and this is shocking when considering all the wars that he's been in and the damage that he's taken over the course of the amount of time that he's been fighting. He gets dropped and rocked pretty much once per fight, you can expect. And it's been this way since before the Romero fight. Back at 170, he was getting chinned by Wonderboy whenever he was cutting more weight. In the fights he wins, he gets away clean sometimes, like he did in the Jared Cannonier fight, the Liskarov fight, but Paulo Costa hit him with that spinning wheel kick and almost got him up out of there. There was also Darren Till dropping him with an elbow too. And the guy is usually getting knocked out or dropped and subbed if he does lose. In the Izzy title win, it was this way. And then against Dricus and Hamzat, it was the same. And he got punished in the Dricus and Hamzat fight. Bryce Mitchell is the next fighter we're going to talk about. He is living proof that MMA has no favorites and it abandons its children every single day. He was on an okay career path. He had some decent wins. He was fighting good contenders. He had lost to Ilya, but that loss wasn't even that bad, to be honest. And then just randomly starts getting knocked out bad. He's a great matchup for big punchers because he gets hit a lot. The biggest punchers in the division can catch Bryce Mitchell wide open to begin a finishing sequence or walk off KO him if they can land accurately enough. And we're at featherweight, so these fighters all have great accuracy with their boxing or their kicks. That overhand that Josh Emmett landed on Bryce Mitchell was 8 fighters' careers worth of damage in a single punch. That was the craziest knockout I've ever seen, one of them. Charles Oliveira takes a lot of damage in his fights. A steady theme throughout his title reign is that he would get dropped once per fight and he'd still win. Armin axe kicked him. No head movement on him either. How many times has he almost been finished throughout his fights? That was what made his win so fantastic, is the fact that he was almost getting knocked out, or that he was actually getting knocked out and pulling guard. And fighters would see him on his back on the ground after they dropped him and they wouldn't enter his guard. And then he'd have enough time to recover and then he'd get up and work whatever he needed to do. The amount of CTE that he absorbed in order to hold on to that title is probably a tremendous amount. And I wouldn't be surprised if he sees in Kaleidoscope at this point. Brian Ortega is the entire framework for the Eagle analogy that I made at the beginning of the video. He is the Eagle team general. He always keeps a rebirth up his sleeve, and he can even use them during his fights. The first Yair Rodriguez fight happened. He tore his shoulder, and then that one was off. He had to take some time off to go heal and recover. He comes back to fight Yair. His ex-girlfriend is in the stage. He's jumping while Bruce Buffer is announcing his name, and he rolls his ankle. He broke one of his talons, mate. The fight starts, and Yair Rodriguez knocks him down with a boxing combination, I believe it was. He plucked his feathers, and he rebirthed, and he got a takedown, and he still ended up winning the fight. Brian Ortega either wins or perishes violently. And sometimes whenever he wins, he still perishes violently afterwards. In the Max Holloway fight, he got beaten to a quarter inch of his life. Renato Moicano was even beating this guy up at a point whenever they were fighting. I think he still ended up winning that one though. Alexander Volkanovski taxed him bad. Diego Lopez put him to sleep and woke him up in the same 2-punch combo at the very beginning of their fight. This man was born to get punched in his head. Josh Emmett potentially has the best chin at 145. He went 5 rounds with Top Toro and was only dropped a couple of times. He didn't get KO'd. My confidence in his chin makes me believe that he can take any contender in this division to a decision, even if he's getting beat up and they're piecing him. He always ends up cut and bloodied at the end of his fights, most of the time at least. He got out pretty unscathed against Bryce Mitchell, but otherwise, if you put him against a top contender, he's probably going to stand there and just get beaten up. Josh Emmett is a heavy bag programmed to launch an overhand at you every 15 seconds. Pantoja is going to be the last fighter that we talk about. It largely goes unnoticed, but he takes a lot of damage in the fights that he does partake in order to win them. I think that Pantoja is a good dude, so I always end up watching his post-fight pressers whenever he's talking about the fights. He always looks like he just got attacked by a rabid animal in those interviews whenever he's talking with the belt in front of him. And this is the cost of his activity and willingness to push a pace that many fighters aren't up for because they compromise themselves fighting this way. He walks right into each of his challengers and ends up overpowering them, just walking them down. He has such a good chin that many of his opponent's shots just get ignored and we don't even acknowledge them. Pantoja is the man. He has some of the best attributes in this weight class and he takes damage probably better than Gaethje. Granted, the fighters that he's fighting are lighter. Those are going to be my picks for fighters who take a lot of damage. Thank you for making it to this point in the video. If you're still around, please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a nice day. I will catch you guys in the next video.